Wellington, and you're watching The Red Booth.
Hi, welcome to The Red Booth Show. I'm your host, Kimberly Q. On tonight's episode, I have Rhett Wellington. He's a male model, and he gets to talk to us about what it's like in that very interesting industry. So come and join us. So hey, Rhett, how's it going?
Hey, good. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm so happy to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me.
This is kind of cool because Rhett is a male model, right? I mean, you can probably tell.
I am.
So this is an interesting part of the entertainment industry that I don't think people get to hear the stories about a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I've had female models on the show. I've had actors. Nice. But I don't think I've ever had a male model on the show.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks for having me as your first.
Yes, thanks for being here.
Yeah.
Now, you're doing really well. Obviously, you've got a lot of work and you're, very busy. What is it like in the life of Rhett Wellington?
As far as modeling is concerned, there's, castings. I usually get like a handful of castings per week. So
are these sort of like the big call, like the casting calls? Like you just go out to...
So like my agencies will send me out. And I'm lucky because I'm signed not just in Los Angeles, but in San Diego and Orange County and San Francisco as well. So I can like maximize my workflow. But yeah, so like in terms of modeling, I get a handful of castings a day. Hopefully I'll have handful of castings a week, and hopefully a few shoots lined up per week as well. But the thing about modeling is usually you got to have something else going on, or something else to spend your time, or your something else that you're passionate about, because modeling is, you're gonna have a lot of spare time. You're gonna have a lot of free time, a lot of time where you don't know when the next job is, or a lot of time where you won't get a casting for a week or two, and you got to have something else going on usually.
Right.
Usually, yeah.
Well, that's kind of like a lot of the industry here in LA, right?
Exactly. Everybody does everything, which is really cool.
So, in between your casting and in between your shoots, what else do you do as well?
I've started to focus a lot on photography, which is so fun for me. And then I also am in a duo for music.
I saw this online.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
So you're putting out sort of like pop, sort of dance music. Is that what you call it?
It's like electro pop punk. I don't know if
that's cool.
Yeah, it's like I don't know if you remember like Hello Goodbye.
Yes.
And like kind of like Hello Goodbye, Blink 182 like mix. That's what we're going for.
Nice.
But I spend a lot of my free time and my mental capacity on music, and then also like writing, getting into some film stuff and producing. So I keep myself busy.
Wow, that's great, because it's all in the creative field.
Exactly, right, yeah.
So where did you live in LA already, or did you move here from somewhere else?
So I'm from San Francisco, Bay Area, grew up there, and then I went to college at Chapman in Orange County.
Okay.
So that was a pretty smooth transition from Orange County to LA, which is great because I meet people that come, to LA from like Minnesota or Wisconsin. It's just like I had a pretty smooth transition because I knew people in the area, and I had friends who also, came to LA from school.
Nice. So it's not too far of a move for you.
Exactly. Yeah, it was pretty smooth.
So how did you first get into modeling? Like, what made you decide to do it?
So I did a good amount of modeling as a kid up in San Francisco. I worked for like Macy's and Mervyn's like weekly.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, I was.
You're like bringing home the paychecks. Like
I
your
know,
parents
right?
were like, score.
I mean, they had to drive me everywhere, so
Yeah,
it was kind of like
there
was give and take. But I ended up missing a lot of school for that, and so going into high school, I focused on sports. I also played college football and track, so like that was a big focus of mine. So there was like a big gap where I didn't pursue acting or modeling or anything like that until I quit football my junior year in college was when I started getting back into it. And yeah, so like my current modeling career, when I wanted to get back into it, I looked up some like local agencies, and I just sent out some emails. I didn't really know if anyone would be interested, and then I got emailed back with my first agency, who I'm still with in Orange County.
Who is that?
Auto Models.
Cool.
Yeah, they're awesome.
Like auto, like A-O,
O-T-
A-U-T-O?
O-T-T-O.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm still signed with them in Orange County. Teresa's amazing. So yeah, and then it kind of just started flowing from there. Then I met some photographers who introduced me to other agencies and other photographers, and just kind of, I don't know, it's crazy. And I know in the entertainment industry, even in acting and everything else, it's so much networking, which is, I think, a little bit different in terms of business and corporate. That's all networking as well, but like a lot of modeling and acting is socializing and just meeting people and becoming friends with people, and then kind of turns into business opportunities. So
Yeah, that's definitely true. I think that's a big part of the industry. If you find other people to work with,
right,
through the other people that
right,
it's just kind of the way that it
exactly.
it seems to
well,
work.
you link people that you've worked with before and people that you trust and aren't gonna make
That's
you look bad.
Yeah, that's totally a big part of it. I think it's referrals and confidence.
Totally.
Confidence in that person and like, hey, my friend really recommends this person or
Right.
whatever. And
Yeah.
also, it's not like you can just walk up to a storefront for all these people. You have to like find them somehow.
Right. Exactly.
So you
Yeah.
have to shuffle through everybody.
Yeah, and I see that the clients tend to reuse models that they know and they work with rather than going through the whole process of casting and all that kind of stuff. Because a lot of times, they'll pick models without doing casting, and then
Oh, that's a good point.
yeah,
here.
there's direct bookings, which are great as a model because then you don't have to drive to the casting, and you're just like, oh, great, I booked a job. But sometimes the models don't look like their photos. Sometimes they're not cool. So I feel like when clients have worked with someone before, you build relationships, and then you work with them for years. You can work with the client. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
So, like, if you were to go and do, let's say, a catalog or something like that, like, what's the kind of modeling jobs that you get, and they're your big bread and butter?
I say e-commerce and catalog.
E-commerce.
Yeah, and that's that's where a lot
Like
of them.
Amazon, like, hey,
Well,
buy this thing. Or...
So websites in general, if you go on a clothing website, it's the photos that are front, side, back, that is, and that's it's honestly people say oh, modeling is hard. Try to stand up for 10 hours straight and not move and have clothes pinned to you. It's actually pretty grueling. But ecom's I book
it's a little bit of torture, right?
Yeah, well, because you're standing in the same spot, and then you know what I mean, very
Yeah.
very tedious movements. But I mean, I'm not complaining. It's great. But,
I know. It sounds funny, but I totally understand what you mean.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy.
It's totally uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So.
But a good bulk of my work is website e-commerce, and then catalog as well. I don't do a ton of high fashion editorial stuff just because I think my look is more commercial.
So you don't do the blue steel thing?
I don't do the blue steel. I can do the blue steel thing, but I've done a little bit of runway. But the money is never really there in runway, and that's in New York.
Really? I would think it would pay more.
It depends. Totally depends on the job. But
Yeah.
and then I've done a good amount of music video work as well, which is so fun. I prefer acting, to be honest. So music
Really?
videos, a lot of fun.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have to take a quick break.
Okay.
But we'll be right back with
Awesome.
model Rhett Wellington. Welcome back to the Red Booth Show. I'm here with model Rhett Wellington.
How's it going, guys?
You laugh when I say model. It's so funny because I feel like you're like, oh, I'm not really a model.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like I'm embarrassed about it, but it's I don't know, it's funny. It's it's a funny thing to be introduced as a model.
You haven't been
know what I mean?
referred to like model Rhett Wellington.
Well, it's weird because when I'm out or people I'm meeting people and they're like, oh, what do you do? It's it's hard for me to say oh, I'm a model. You know what I mean?
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. Maybe it's because I do more than modeling, or maybe it's because there's a stigma.
There's
with
a
modeling.
stigma.
Yeah, I don't know, but yeah.
That's not fair, guys. Be nice to the male models,
Come on,
okay?
guys. Come on, guys.
He's cool.
Promise, I'm nice.
So you were just saying in the last segment that you really want to get into acting, actually.
Yeah.
So I mean, a lot of times I've seen actors who've done that path. They start out maybe doing some modeling and getting some commercials.
Well, it goes hand in hand, which is great. So yeah, I've had some cool opportunities. I worked on Two Broke Girls last year, which was great. I had a co-star role, and then
Nice.
yeah, thank you. I've worked on some indie stuff. It's crazy because acting is modeling. You can become a model and you can book big work. You know what I mean? Right off the bat, based off photos or portfolio. But acting, it's getting in the room is a huge first step, and making those connections, which is a whole different beast than the modeling. But it's going really well, and I'm happy with with how it's going so far. So
Well, I mean, the fact that you're able to just make get a lot of work from modeling is really good, you know. So
Right.
you have steady work from that,
yeah, totally.
and then so for getting into acting,
Right.
do you go on like those sort of big casting calls? Do the agencies that you work with right now also represent you as an actor?
So no, so I have separate representation for theatrical and commercial acting. My theatrical manager, Tanith, is amazing. He's who booked me on Two Broke Girls. He's got me in the room for some really big cool things. I met some cool studios and casting directors through him. So he's awesome. And then I'm with NTA commercially, which is also separate. So there's all these different separate avenues, and but yeah, no.
So like NTA would be for any big commercials like national TV or whatever.
Totally right. And then my manager would be for television or movies and web series, all that kind of stuff. So
Cool. Sorry about the crow, by the way.
oh, is
It's
it
Halloween, so or
the crow?
we have
Is it- I don't see it.
we
Is
have
it-
the crow just.
Is there a crow in here?
Yeah.
No way. Where is it? I don't even
Whatever.
see
You
it.
can't hear it. I can hear it.
That's awesome.
Okay, whatever. So
I was gonna make a Game of Thrones reference, but I
Yes.
held it back.
I love Game of Thrones. All right, so back to what we were talking about. Okay, so that's great. You have different representation for the different fields.
Totally right.
What have you done with the like commercial and how is it different from like modeling and going to those types of castings?
So a lot of times for modeling, you'll show up and they'll either just see how the clothes fit or they'll take a quick photo of you. Pretty straightforward. With commercials, it's funny. It's a little more. You get some interesting auditions. Like I remember one time there was an audition and we got paired up, and we went in and they had us rolling on top of each other, holding each other, like fake kissing, rolling across the room, and they were filming it.
What?
And it's just crazy because you never know what's gonna happen because they have all these elaborate commercials.
How can they just spring that on you like that?
Oh, it happens all the time. You have to kiss people randomly. You have to. It's pretty funny, but
And you're supposed to look natural and normal.
well, because they have all these commercial concepts. They require special effects and all green screens and stuff, but they want to see what you're gonna look like doing it in the audition room. So you have to kind of like, yeah, it's pretty funny. You got to pretend to eat like Taco Bell, or they'll bring you like chips and you like pretend this is a taco. Like it's yeah. So it's a lot different than going on modeling
weird
castings.
life.
Yeah, yeah. Some strange things happen, but yeah.
But it's fun.
Yeah, no, it's a blast. You never know what's gonna happen. I love waking up and not knowing necessarily like what the next opportunity is gonna be. So.
Well, I think it's awesome that you have a base of modeling, because I think you can do a lot from that. And
Right.
What advice do you have, like, so far that's worked for you? Like, you go and you seem to get a lot of work. Your Instagram, for example, is like you have a lot of followers. You have a lot of like.
Working on it, trying to get there. Thank you, though.
You're mostly doing like clothing. You're working for a lot of different brands.
Right.
So you seem to have that down.
Yeah.
And what would you say is like the thing that works for you?
My advice would definitely be, you definitely have to hustle for yourself. You got to be your own manager and agent. You got to be your best. You know what I mean? Like no one's gonna rep you like the way you'll rep yourself. You need agents and reps. You gotta like do it for yourself. You can't wait for things to happen.
So do you submit yourself sometimes for things?
I don't now because I have reps, but
Yeah.
just finding the reps and finding the photographers. Like don't wait for your agent to set up a shoot for you. If you see a photographer and you like his work, set it up. You know what I mean? Because then you can make multiple connections from that. And also
Good
it
advice.
takes time and you have to be patient. Like it took me 3 years to get to where I'm at, and I'm still not even close to where I want to be. And like a lot of people, I feel like they'll move to LA and they'll get signed and they'll be all excited and they'll do one photo shoot and then it won't pay off the way they want it to pay off. And like people don't understand, like it takes time to develop relationships and a portfolio. And so yeah, like don't get discouraged. Like, but stick it out if you really want to do it. Same with acting and music and everything else in the industry. Everything
Yeah.
in life you have to like. If it's worth it to you, you got to be patient. So.
That's very, very true.
Yeah.
People come here and I think hope to have success like within the first 6 months.
Totally.
Yeah, but then that's just barely getting into it. So.
Right. Totally. Yeah. It takes a long time.
Okay, we have to take another quick break.
Okay.
But we'll be right back
Awesome.
with model Rhett Wellington. And welcome back to the Redwood Show. I'm here with model Rhett Wellington.
What's up, guys?
Thanks for being on the show.
Of course, thank you.
So you were just talking about how you have gotten pretty far, but you're still not where you're trying to get to. And I'm guessing, is that also in modeling as well, or do you have more that you're trying to get through on your career?
With modeling, there's a lot I want to do with modeling. It's tough because it would take up a lot of my time and my mental capacity. I want to travel more. I'm signed in Milan, and I still have not been to Milan. They try to get me to go Milan every season or every fashion week, and I want to go so bad. But if I do that, then that takes away from the music we're trying to get out, and the acting auditions that I'll be missing out on, which is also a huge goal of mine. So it's tough to balance it out, but.
Go to Milan.
I know, but the thing is, I can't just go to Milan. I'd have to stay there for a few months.
Yeah.
Like I went to New York for Fashion Week last year, and I ended up staying for like 2.5 months because you have to build the relationships and meet the clients, and they have to know that you're in town. So it's I still want to do London. I want to do Paris. I want to do that whole thing, but it's tough to.
Like you want to go do the runways type, like the fashion shows and stuff?
Yeah, and even just stay there and like build some, work there. And like I've never been to Europe, and I would love to, just travel. But it's hard to divide all the different lanes that you want to pursue. You know what I mean? But
Which one do you think is your most priority? I mean, you've been doing modeling for a few years now, and you've worked with a lot of big companies. Like,
right.
Why don't you tell everybody some of the companies that you've done your shoots for?
Let's see. I just did a campaign for Sexy Hair, which was really cool. I don't know if you know that company. It's like the big red spray bottle, the big sexy hair.
Oh, Sexy Hair. Yes,
yeah,
that's
was cool.
That's a huge hairspray brand.
I'm trying. It's so funny. People ask me this question, and I like blank. Land's End, Amiri, who have like really awesome like denim. Then I did one of the coolest jobs I did was a Britney Spears music video for her song "Make Me," and that was like really cool because like a lot of the modeling stuff is music video stuff. Even though it's acting, you'll get booked through like modeling agencies. But that was awesome as well. So.
Oh, that sounds fun.
Yeah.
What did you have to do in that one?
I got to dance with her and spin her around, and I got to sing to her. It was cool.
Really?
Yeah, it was fun. You guys should check it out.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So did you have to do dance lessons and stuff, or just?
No, it wasn't like choreographed dancing.
Right.
It was just kind of
Just chilling.
Yeah, chilling
Okay.
with her. Yeah, it was fake dancing.
So what was she like?
She was great. Yeah, she was awesome.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Seems like it.
Super professional. Yeah.
Well, cool. So you've been doing all of this for a couple of years,
Mm-hmm.
and now you're working on kind of getting into more of the music industry and more acting.
Right.
Those are two different things completely, but
Right.
which one do you think you focus on more?
It's so tough. That's like really tough because I literally in my planner I have to do that where I shut everything else off. I have like a music day, or then because me and one of my best friends we started writing and producing scripts as well, like indie short films and stuff. So we'll have a day where me and him will meet up and we'll finish out a script, and like I have to shut off the other avenues to focus on one. But I honestly think they're even, and I think I've made some good progress with all of them, and I think I can keep going with all of them and just kind of see what happens. You know what I mean?
You totally can.
Yeah.
I know you can definitely get told sometimes to just focus on one thing.
Right.
But you can do any of those. You can make progress in any of those.
And I feel like I would be cutting myself. I probably wouldn't be able to like sleep at night if I cut one off, because like, you know what I mean? I just have like ideas and so many different, I'll think of a song idea or like a melody or a riff, and then if I wasn't doing music, what would I do with that thought? You know what I mean? Like I have to get it out somehow. So.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you are able to actually live in LA, and support yourself basically doing modeling, which is in itself, that's a really big accomplishment.
Yeah.
And you're very successful at it.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yeah. I mean, what do you think works for you? Like let's say you're going to go do a modeling shoot. What is it that you think is your tips for people, like to be a good male model?
It's funny, and like I look back on my first few photo shoots, and I had no idea what I was doing, but there's no way to know what you're doing. And I know this sounds really, really bad, and my new roommate, he's getting into modeling, and I tell him, and he he was laughing, but you have to like at all times, and it sounds really conceited, but you have to at all times like know what you look like in your head. It's weird, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it takes time to like it's very subtle like changes of facial expressions like comes across huge on camera.
Totally.
And so you have to kind of like keep in mind exactly like how you're portraying, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's what I was telling him. When I first started modeling and the first shoot came out and my agency was like, oh yeah, it's okay. And I was like, well, I don't want it to just be okay. I was literally practicing in the mirror, like, okay, if I do that slightly with that muscle, is it, you know what I mean? Like just trying to figure out like the subtleties rather than overdoing it and, overdoing the facial expressions, which I feel like a lot of new models do.
That's
just like
that
just
Blue
like
Steel
looking,
joke.
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Exactly.
just like looking more natural. And I sound so ridiculous saying that, like practice in the mirror. But
No, that's totally valid.
if you want to do it right, you gotta.
Well, I'm sure like when you first do your photo shoots and you start seeing all these different pictures of you, and there's
Right.
like, I mean, back in the day when I was like 16, I did modeling.
Oh, nice.
So I know I used to go through like these huge sheets of like lots and lots of pictures.
Right.
And we have to take a quick break. We just ran out of
No
time.
worries.
But we'll be right back with model Rhett Wellington. And welcome back to the Red Booth Show. I'm here with model Rhett Wellington.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
So to me, this is really cool because people just don't really get to hear the story of like what it's like to live in the male modeling industry. I mean, the modeling industry itself, and then as a male, it's
Right.
totally different from the normal story.
Right.
So you have this kind of insight, and you've been doing it for years. You've been steadily working. And we were just talking about this, like what you have to do is like kind of learn what you look like, which is true.
Right.
It's a weird thing to try to learn what you look like.
Because and at first you feel like conceited or like self-centered, but it's like the thing is the industry is like I felt weird posting photos of myself on Instagram for a while because I was I was a fraternity, played college football, and then all of a sudden I got to post shirtless photos of myself, but it's for my brand, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So as soon as you get over that barrier, you gotta get over that if you're a model.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's all that it's about
Right.
is, how you come across on camera. But one of the biggest things I think is like learning the angles, like learning your best angles and your
Right.
best, face, like how to turn and
Right.
what to do. So
Totally.
did you learn that just from practicing from when you were a kid? Because you did those like Macy's and whatever it was? Or?
Honestly, as a kid, I didn't really. I was like, oh, like modeling again, yeah. I just want to go home and play video games. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
Yeah.
it was a cool experience. But no, as a kid, I wasn't thinking about my angles or none of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just trying to get through the day.
You're just like, cool, thanks.
Yeah, exactly.
Bye. Okay, so now, so you're doing it now, and we were talking a bit about, your goals and things, and you mentioned traveling, going to different countries where they have major fashion industries.
Right.
And I know there's a little bit more to this story because there's also the financial end of like being a model.
Totally.
Like for me, way back in the day, because I'm getting up there.
No,
guys.
you're not.
But when I used to do it, they kept a lot of the money that was made to the point where I basically never got paid. But that was kind of like not that great of a agency that I had.
Right,
It was
right.
it was a real agency, but
Right.
I know that they have to put out costs, for their talent,
Right.
and then they have to recoup costs as well and make enough money to pay their staff. And
Right.
so traveling is a whole nother thing. And I know like when I was involved with it, there was girls going to Japan. They were talking to me about going to Japan, but I didn't want to go.
Right.
But there's reasons why. It's because you have to cover costs and things like that.
Totally. And that's something to keep in mind, as a model, if you're going to go abroad. There's no guarantee that you're going to book work there. And if you're not booking work there, you're still going to have to either pay the rent where you're living or pay the agency back for paying the rent where you're living.
Right.
Which is completely understandable. That's only fair because it's an investment for them as well.
But see, they send you there not with an actual job booked. They send you there to go and just basically audition.
Well, I've worked in the Philippines before, and
The Philippines?
yeah, that was cool. But I didn't go stay there and go to castings. A client booked me, and I flew there, and I did the job, and I came back. So that happens. That's direct
Okay, well
booking.
that's good.
But like a lot of times when you sign in London or Germany or wherever, they're gonna sign you with the idea that you're gonna come live there because they're making an investment on you. So you know what I mean. You're gonna have to be present and be making the money. So yeah, so like a lot of times, like when I went to New York last summer, I didn't have any work lined up at all. But I went there, I made my meetings, made my castings, and I made work. I made it work. But yeah, so that's a scary thing as a model though, is going to especially another country, with no job lined up, but still paying rent, in LA, and then having new rent to pay. I mean, it's a big step to make, like financially. So
Yeah, definitely. And
Yeah.
I mean, New York, I think, is probably the hub of
Right.
modeling. Yeah, do you think so?
Yeah, it's hard to say. I don't know, because I'm not really in the high fashion runway kind of like certain like network, but it definitely is. I mean, New York will always be up there for sure.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, can you tell us a fun story about something that you've gone through as a model that,
Fun story.
like something funny that's happened to you?
Fun story.
I mean,
I
he's
can tell
probably
you
thinking
the.
of
I
things.
can tell
I
you
can't
the.
talk about that.
I can tell you the worst
can't talk-
story.
Okay, what's the worst story?
So this is the only time this has ever happened. I'm the most professional person. I always show up early. I always show up ready to go. It was a friend's birthday party the night before I had to shoot, and we stayed out a little bit too late. And I woke up. I set a million alarms, but I woke up to my agent, like probably called me 5 times, and I was just asleep, and I just assumed it was my alarm. I just kept turning it off. And finally I wake up, and my agent's like, Rhett. I was like, oh my God. And then it clicked. I was like, oh my God. So I ended up being like 2 hours late to this shoot. And I'm happy it happened, because now I'll never let that happen again. But yeah, that was
The
bad.
lesson to be learned, kids.
Yeah, and I learned my lesson.
Don't
so.
party too hard.
I wasn't partying. I was just very tired. So.
Sure. Okay. We'll just say that. No,
Yeah,
just kidding.
exactly. I just gone back. Actually, I just gone back from New York, so I was jet lagged, and I was just seeing everyone back in town. So, yeah, I'm never late, and I'm really surprised that my agency didn't drop me. I was like, I'm so sorry, I never do this, and she believed me because it's the truth. So, yeah.
Well, 1 out of 1,000 good jobs that you've done, right?
Exactly.
So
yeah.
it's good. It's good
Yeah,
balance.
Exactly. So.
Well, I think everybody should go and follow you and check out your, social media.
Yes, please. It's at Rhett Wellington. Yeah, so if you guys want to check out my band's music, we're called The Blame, period, at the end. So we're on Spotify. Our last EP is available on iTunes and everywhere else. And then our social media is at It's The Blame.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for coming.
Well, thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
This
thanks
was a
for
lot of
being
fun.
here
Yeah,
and
thank you,
sharing
everybody.
your stories. And I hope everybody gets to see you in your next big, commercial.
Hopefully, yes. Hopefully.
And awesome. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, everybody. We're here again with Tony the Movie Guy.
Hi.
Okay, so I'm really excited that you're doing this on the show, by the way.
I know. It's a pleasure, by the way.
And I say that every time, don't I?
I know.
I do. And you say that too.
We have fun, though. And you have a great show.
Thank you very much. I love doing it. And I'm happy you're here to tell everybody about the latest movies.
Good. So I'm going to tell you about the films coming out in the 3rd week of October. There's some good films in the theater. October 19th, Can You Ever Forgive Me? So again, this is a film that looks like it might get some Oscar attention. It's Melissa McCarthy in a very serious role. And it looks
She's
quite...
never done that before that I know
Once or
of,
twice, St. Vincent with Bill Murray was a good film with her, but in this it's based on a true life scandal surrounding a celebrity biographer called Lee Israel, who basically faked biographies. And it looks quite good. It's a very different kind of performance from Melissa McCarthy, but check that out. It's called Can You Ever Forgive Me? That's October 19th. And then Halloween. So there's been a lot of buzz for this, for all the horror buffs. Now, look, I'm not even a big horror buff, but obviously, the original Halloween movies with Jamie Lee Curtis. Jamie Lee Curtis is coming back. And Danny McBride, who's known for doing comedy, is actually producing this. The trailers look incredible.
Danny McBride is
Yeah.
producing it?
Yeah, he is. He's producing it, but the trailers are really scary. It's all about, obviously, Michael Myers. I got that right?
Yeah.
It's not Jason, it's Michael Myers, because I'm not a big horror buff. But the trailers really look fantastic. They genuinely do. And it's so cool to see Jamie Lee Curtis come back. I think anyone who's into horror is going to check out Halloween. So that comes out October 19th. And then that's it for theatrical releases. There's a TV show I'm going to spotlight because people seem to like that we're talking about, the shows. There's a lot of great content.
Oh, yes.
There's a show that just swept the Emmys. It won all these awards and no one had heard of it, called The Marvelous Miss Maisel on Amazon Prime. And it's set in like the 50s, the time of like Lenny Bruce, who was one of the first kind of avant-garde comedians. And it's about this kind of upper-class New York lady who gets into comedy. It's really good. Check it out on Amazon Prime. That's what I've got.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Tony.
Always.
Don't forget to go and listen to his podcast on iTunes.
Yeah, Tony the Movie Guy.